Yeah, there's a bunch over there that somebody said. Yeah, desde coming this side.
All right, hello everybody. We're going to probably get started here. I hear there's still a bunch of people out there. So we'll get this part going because at least we can get the beginning part that deals with the commission out of the way. So first of all, I'm going to call the meeting to order here. So I call this meeting to order, and the time is 6:38. Roll call. Can the recording secretary call the roll of officers?
Yes, Willie Joe Cabra,
Here.
Here.
Ike Yoshina,
Unofficial.
Ike,
Here.
Tony Sylvester,
Here.
Paul Berman,
Here.
Tom Lodge,
Here.
Kalani Koito,
Here.
Rob White, Mark Bartel.
Here. Okay, we have a quorum.
We do. Thank
All
you.
right. Okay, thank you, Barbara. Okay, Barbara is our recording secretary. She's over in Kona. Mark is the commissioner from Kona, so he's by himself right now over there. Today we have Lisa Hadaway, who's the new DOFAR administrator. Came all the way from Oahu for us today, so I hope everybody be respectful of her. And we have Joy Mello and Steve Burkfield up in front here from DOFAR. Okay. So the minutes have been distributed and read to you. Are there any corrections? I want to make a note that we're just going to do the minutes from November because September's one was quite lengthy and there's still a lot that I wanted to go over with that. So if everybody went through that minutes, yeah, for the November meeting. Would you like to make a motion for that, Tom? Okay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay, Willie Joe second.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see
All in
now.
favor?
All in favor?
say aye.
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 Any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay, I'm going to leave public testimony for after so you guys can kind of have an idea of what, as Lisa Hadaway goes through the presentation, if you have questions you want to ask or whatever, save it for after we're done. And please be respectful. I don't want people yelling out or anything like that. If you want to talk, you have to come up to this microphone. Will be really nice because Barbara can't hear from back there. And when we do the minutes, it's very hard to get good minutes. She doesn't know who's talking or what people are saying, and it gets really confusing. So even for ourselves up here, if anybody's going to talk, please state your name first. Thank you. Okay, report presentation, Lisa. I'm going to start with item 1, which is the proposed amendment changes to 124. We're interested in knowing more about the purpose of there's 2 changes on here. One is under definitions, to provide definitions for the term introduce and release, and amend the definitions of introduced wildlife to injurious and wildlife. And the second one will be prohibited activities, to prohibit the transport and release of introduced wildlife. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear me in Kona okay? I hope, okay.
Alicia, we're good. Thank you.
Okay, all right, so I do have pictures to show, but for these specific questions, I'm just going to talk. So thanks for all those that are coming. I'm Lisa Hadaway with Division of Forestry and Wildlife. I'm the new administrator. I worked here on Hawaii Island for 13 years. I was last the branch manager. And now I'm up in Honolulu and I oversee the entire state. So a little bit later on, we'll go through some maps and I'll kind of give you more background information just so we all kind of understand how we're organized and everything. But with regard to these specific questions, every set of administrative rules, there's several sections, and in those sections, one of the first sections that we have is a definitions section. So, and the 124 rules had some differences in how things were defined compared to other rules in the department. So the changes of those definitions are actually to bring our definitions consistent across our rules. So in the 183D Hawaii Revised Statutes, release is already defined there, so we wanted to be sure that the word release was defined consistently in the 124 rules. So that's why the change happened. So does that
Anyone have any questions on that up here on the commission?
So it's kind of an administrative change for consistency. This is,
So Lisa, it's Mark and Kona.
yes.
I have a question, and if you can't interpret it, then just say you need a lawyer to do it. But as I read this, so if let me give you an example that happened to me last year. Right, my neighbor had a sow and 3 or 4 piglets in his coffee farm, right, and asked me to remove the pigs. So what I did is I caught the sow and the pigs. I put them in my truck in dog kennels. I took them up to part of the forest and I released them. Under this definition, have I broken the law?
Well, and that takes us to the prohibited activities, the second part of the question that was posed to me by you folks.
Okay.
And so this rules-making process went through its public hearing, and then we have all of those comments, and we're integrating in the comments to the 124 rules. As it stands now, based on public comments we received during the process, both at the public hearings and written comments, we're proposing to modify the section in the current draft as it stands now, it was written to transport and release wild animals or wildlife. Now we're just going to have it prohibit release. So you can transport those animals and bring them home and confine them. But if you were to release them in the forest, then yes, you would have broken the rule.
So Lisa, that's a pretty common practice used by pig hunters. If I'm not a big pig hunter, but as far as I understand it, and the guys that I represent here on this side of the island, that is a fairly common practice, given that our landscape is so broken up by development, and you've got public land and private land and housing development, and people move pigs around to keep the quality of the animal high, or try to make it higher. It's a practice that's been going on for generations, frankly. I don't understand, after all the public comment that occurred, why don't we just... I understand the purpose for the law, right? Coqui frogs and whatever. Nobody has any benefit in those things, right? But why don't we just exclude game animals, and you could be very specific about it, right? Sheep, pigs, goats, and just be done with this.
So,
Yet,
if I may, Mark, this
Sure.
process is still ongoing. Those comments are still getting integrated. And then what happens is this goes to our lawyers, the Attorney General's office. They review and they determine whether we need to go back to public hearing or if we move the package forward to the Board of Land and Natural Resources. And there's going to be more opportunity to comment at that point as well on the 124 package. But it's still several, probably a few months away from moving towards that that opportunity for public comment again.
Yeah, I think you'd get a lot less comment from the hunting community, specifically the guys I represent, if we just made this change now. When it came out, we wouldn't go through this hoopla again. Right?
Okay. Point taken.
Okay.
I'm not
So,
sure.
Lisa or Joey, I guess, or whatever, what happens if this law does pass, or, this rule? And, I mean, like in residential areas now, if pigs come in people's yards, is there a permit process?
Yeah, there's,
And how involved is that, and or would that be? Because right now, like, animals are coming down into people's yards, and then, people kind of just courteous, they go and catch it, but, what do you start doing with these pigs? Do you have to destroy them? I mean, that's what the law is lending towards, right? Because we can't take them somewhere else and just let them go.
Yeah. Right now, we generally waive the permit requirement for people to take pigs if they can do so safely on their private property, as long as they can do so legally, because otherwise it would be a mind-boggling experience for our department to be issuing that many permits. But beyond that, I can't answer until, whatever the rules come out. We're just going to have to take our Attorney General's interpretation to follow that.
and I think part of the other concern had been things like pseudo-rabies and other diseases moving across the island with some of the released animals that were transported long distances, because there's certain reservoirs of certain diseases in populations, say on Kuala-Lai, but now they've spread, as I understand it.
Does anybody have what pseudo-rabies is here in Hawaii? I mean, is that...
Pseudo-rabies, no. I think there was a case in Oahu, but not on this side. Pseudo-rabies is all over. It's here.
Was another one.
I see maybe one or two a year at work. I mean, it's there. The odds, the whole pseudo-rabies process is difficult. I mean, you got to be really unlucky to have your dog get it. I mean, it's not zoonotic. It won't go to people. Pigs are pretty much they didn't host, except for the dogs. A lot of the pigs are positive, but your dog can only get it in that 1 week period that they're actually shedding the virus. And it's kind of complex. In other words, you really have to be unlucky. The odds are really against getting it, your dog's getting it. But what happens most of the time is when you do catch that one pig, you lose out kind of plenty of your dogs. Majority of the time you get your whole pack of big dogs with you.
Okay, so but
Yeah,
consuming
yeah.
consuming cooked meat is not a problem.
Oh no, not
Okay,
a problem.
thank you.
Not a problem. Even the dogs, you cook them, that's fine. So,
Any further questions up here? Kalani?
Okay, the first one, an unpermitted release. So in other words, you catch and release in areas that needs to be like so-called taken out. So we can again permit to relocate it to areas where public hunters can get to. I mean, can we work out some kind of agreement on that?
I think we certainly would, definitely want to work with the hunting community on those kinds of things. And we've already, in adjacent areas, that definitely happens when we have animals that were released, say, over a fence into a hunting area, and that would be a preference, actually. So this is a note well taken. Please know that these rules are still in the works. And, we want to be sure that we as a division can operate like that as well. I think a lot of concern, like I said, was in the past with disease reservoirs and disease moving. And then other species other than the game animals being moved around too. But we do have concerns about inter-island transport of animals.
And like the second question, getting to the disease part, is there any documents or any type of things that we can review? Any type of data that was taken throughout to say it's just because it's just a hearsay thing? Or
No,
is it a public access where we can get to it, information, read about it? Whether it's Oahu, how many cases were there found? I mean, is there research done?
There has
Because,
been
you know what I
some
mean, you
work.
cannot come out and say something like that if there isn't any data or any type of research on it. It's just like your word against mine. You know, I don't doubt you, you don't doubt me. I hear in only one case. I'm not hearing it's an epidemic or what have
We
you.
can be sure to get that to you.
Yeah.
I
You know, justification, the causes, you know, it has to be really wanted. I mean, the word, yeah, okay, fine, scared, but is there data to it? Is there proof that it's an ongoing thing? That's what I'm getting
aware
at.
of one study of pseudo-rabies at the Pugaba, on the slopes of Puualalai.
Honey, can speak louder.
Oh,
Look in here.
sorry,
Sorry.
sorry.
Thank you.
There is one study that I am aware of pseudo-rabies on Puualalai. And we can look into that documentation. Much of the work is older, and I've appreciated, Willie Joe is very knowledgeable about disease. But that,
Yeah, I mean, you can be knowledgeable about asthma, but the whole thing is it a cause of justification for the reasons why we
Okay.
went through all this scenario. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
We need that data.
Okay, and I think the USDA did a study a while back too, so that might be available somewhere. Okay, we have to move to the next item. Item B is update on the DOFAR Game Management Program Development Draft Conceptual Plan that I believe Jordan and Scott Spritz was working on that.
I can, let me show you. This exit here.
Lisa, I can skip that one if you want to go to another one. Oh, you got it up.
Okay, is that better? Okay, one of the items that's happening this legislative session is we have made a request based on one of our past GMAC meetings when Esther Kiaina was a few months back. And we made an additional request to the to the governor for an additional $750,000 to go towards the game program. So in that, we've developed some conceptual planning. We've put together a real kind of brief 2-page, basically document to help communicate to legislators what we'd like to do. I'm going to zoom down through this and show you another document as well. But basically, it's to build the program through staffing and also infrastructure support, implementing planning, operations. So this plan is in the conceptual stage. It shows what a branch would. I'm sorry, I'm just getting down to the budget so I can explain some of those numbers to you. So, can everyone see those numbers good enough? Do you want me to make it bigger? So one of the, just so you folks know, so from Pittman Robertson right now, we generally get $1.5 million every year from the federal government. This number is actually not accurate right now. Hunting license and fees, we used to get $400,000 a year when we had the stamp fee associated with the hunting licenses. We're hoping to get that restored. So this number is actually more like $80,000 a year. And then the new budget request is $750,000. So our hopeful budget for the game wildlife program would be $2.6 million. And in fiscal year 16, $3.4 million. And this actually brings the budgeting on par with some of the other programs that are running in DOFA. So one of my objectives in my new role is to try and kind of raise the resources available to the wildlife program, and in particular the game program. And if any of you have heard Esther speak, our deputy director, or were at the hearing, when was that? Friday? Friday. you know that this is a priority for us. And our original request that went to the governor was 1.5 million. And it got cut to 750, but it's still viewed as a priority for the governor. We're actually potentially using another avenue to ask for the additional 750. So, along with personnel, like I mentioned, some of the other kinds of items we would like to improve. It's affected this island recently when we did the lottery for the cattle hunt. We'd like to do that much more efficiently and better. And also for Lanai, we have a lottery program there. So we'd look to improve that and modernize some of that process. So this, I mean, there's only so much I can show you, but these are the kinds of things that we've been putting effort into planning. I have a shorter document as well. And one of the people that I don't know if many of you got to meet him, but Jordan Joe Keel, our Access and Acquisition Coordinator, that was specifically for the Game Wildlife Program, recently moved on, and we would really like to replace him, and we would actually like to augment that program on each of the islands. So, let's see if I can make this. So this is just a much shorter version of it, again, kind of highlighting the need for planning, the budgets associated with it, and how that would look.
Yeah, Lisa, so what would it cost to, or estimate, to have a statewide plan like this? Because I think this was just for Maui. I mean,
No. This
it's-
would, the 1.5 million would augment the Pittman-Robertson. So we would have a statewide program that would be initially 2.6 and then 3.4 million. So it's not just planning, it's actually implementing enhanced wildlife management statewide. So every county would get a position, at least initially, and then we would like to build out additional positions and wildlife biologists. And as I've mentioned, also work on modernizing some of the issues at the admin level, such as the lottery system.
Tom?
Lisa, when you talk about augmenting this plan, what qualifications of the person that's going to be running this program are you looking for?
Well, of course, we, in the state DHERT system, there's minimum qualifications for wildlife biologists, but most definitely the game biologists, we would like them to have experience working with game mammals and birds, and the ability to do census and actually be able to supervise people, run a program. And so that's my goal, is to build the infrastructure to help, be a more accountable, more responsible game and wildlife program.
Their task would be strictly for game and management, not...
Associated with these funds, yes.
Yes, okay.
Another question. Under Pittman Robinson,
Mm-hmm.
you have certain strictures there, right? Of use of matching funds?
Yes. So right now, we are supposed to be matching Pittman-Robertson with
Right.
state funds.
So, are those limited to, say, conservation programs or something like that?
No, they're not limited
They're
to
really
conservation.
for game management.
Well, and there is some portion of the Pittman-Robertson funds that goes to non-game, such as some nene management and maybe, but there are cross benefits. For example, predator control that might benefit nene would also benefit game birds.
So the question I have is, in the past, we've had monies in this program. And my experience has been that there has been little or no game management. So, and the explanation I got was that we couldn't use that money for actual game management. Is that a true or false statement?
Well, I think I think it's related to using federal funds associated with endangered species and the complexities associated with that.
Okay.
And I believe that if the state were able to ramp up and provide appropriate matching funds, that we shouldn't be afraid necessarily of that. And if we can actually proceed with solid planning that allows for us to consider those endangered species aspects and potentially mitigate elsewhere, that we would actually be able to do some solid game management planning and not only at a landscape level, but also get some site-specific game management plans. That would be my hope and my goals for this.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you have the political will to do this. Yeah.
I will do my best, but
Okay, how about the other guys in the bureaucracy?
well, I think there's a strong sentiment that we want to do a better job at this and put more resources behind it, and I think that there's a groundswell of folks hitting the ground. I just sat beside a guy on the plane today from Molokai who's got a master's degree, grew up there hunting, and is looking for a job. And so I think that if we could get some of the success that we've seen in some of our other programs also build within the wildlife program, then I think we would be able to do a better job. And that, like I said, is my hope. It's not going to happen overnight, and it takes funding to make things happen, and it takes us going through planning processes and dealing with some of these issues, such as the Endangered Species Act.
I think it would really help me to get over some of my cynicism if you could, or if the department could put down some real, some tangible kind of targets that you're moving towards, and that you can report back to us, well, maybe not to us, but to everybody, the public generally, to kind of show that you're really serious about this. Because in 30 or 40 years that I've had relationships with Gail and ARM, it's been a lot of talk, but not much action. So I'd like to see that. So it's not that I doubt them, but I just think that the department needs to have real, tangible kind of action things that go on, so that users of the resources can start seeing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ike. Kalani?
So basically, this is just on draft. This is not implemented in this plan.
This, when you request funds from the legislature, you constantly get questions on how it might be spent. And so this was a way of helping to communicate that kind of overall picture. This was just put together like in the last month and a half, to help us communicate, as we mentioned when Esther, I think you were at that meeting when Esther was there, when we initially said we would be asking for the 1.5 million. So the initial hope was that we would have the full suite of the funds. This is for the 750 in the first fiscal year 15. Fiscal year 16, we're hopeful, but like I said, we're already looking for an avenue to ask for an additional amount of funding at the legislature through House Bill 1902.
Well, see, what they're getting at is not the financial part that, we're going to have to play politics on. It's more on the concerns of who has the capabilities of helping you perform this. The public interest is the biggest. That's why we're all here.
Indeed.
And to have someone else other than, people like us recommend something to draft these kind of things. And to say, well, what's good for one island is good for all islands is not right. So, like forming one commission under you to help you for each island. That's what I look into. What I'm
Okay.
saying, it's not just environmentalists saying, okay, this is what it is, game management, this is how it's gonna go, and shove them down, down everybody's throat for sake. It's more like people that we know that will speak out on our behalf and say, hey, wait, this is what we on our island like, or what they want on their island, and this is how the outlook should be. And not, emphasize on this is what it is. Take it or leave it because our so-called environmentalists say that's the best thing, or biologists say that's the best thing.
Okay, all right, thank you, Kalani. Okay, I'll just wrap this one up. The money that we put into the Wildlife Revolving Fund is not enough to maximize that PR funds, right? So where does the
That's
rest of the
correct.
money come from?
We have to match it with staff time, and or if by chance we get other, the revolving fund can take in funds from other types of things. Joey, I don't know if you have any other examples, but for the most part, it's just the license sales. So that account is actually running, I think, at about $80,000. So it barely pays for half a position and a lot of the effort on
But is
Lanai.
there other, to maximize the match right now, aren't we maximizing the match already? With money from other programs or other?
It's not cash, though. It's basically staff that is non-federally funded, which is sometimes hard to find. Staff wages. So it's not operating funds.
Right.
So it really actually limits your ability to implement things when you're working with not as much cash, but just staff time.
Thank you.
Can you, could I make a suggestion here? Can you guys look at matching using volunteer kind of stuff?
Yep, there's opportunities for volunteers. Volunteers come in at a certain price range, and we've run into the past where sometimes we love to bring kids out to help us with volunteer projects, but it's viewed as unacceptable in some cases by some of the federal programs, so we would have to look into that. But yeah, volunteer time is
Okay, thank you. Tom, wrap it up.
Lisa, also, in section 183D 10.5, the
Mhm.
Wildlife Revolving Fund, the mandate of the revolving fund is to use the Wildlife Revolving Fund money for any match with Pittman Robertson. Yet when you do that Pittman Robertson money, none of that money is able to be used for game mammal enhancement. Do you propose any way to bring in additional funds in there that would be free from that responsibility for game mammal enhancement, basically? Because that, when you match it, it can't be done for that.
I'm just trying to get to the section. Here we are. This is Wildlife Revolving Fund, that 183D 10.5 that you were talking about. And if any of you folks want to know how to navigate what I just got to, so you can all see these Hawaii revised statutes and everything, I can show you the website where all of this is on, because it's not easy to find, but it's good information to have. Again, we would certainly, be in a situation where we would need to be mindful of how the federal funds are being used. At the same time, it's not something that I think we can continue to avoid forever, because there are so many complex endangered species issues that I would actually rather see us try and work out agreements that we can kind of look at a higher level of where endangered species activities and preservation can happen and where game management can happen to the highest, best use.
Well, my question more is the use of the money in the Wildlife Revolving Fund. And I agree with you as far as, working out ways to get things done with the Endangered Species Act. But Wildlife Revolving Fund is mandated to use those monies if there's a match to be used. It comes out of the Wildlife Revolving Fund first. But yet any of that money that comes out of there has to be used for something other than, game mammal enhancement. Is there any way to get additional money that are not bound to that restriction? Is what we're saying, or would you be amenable to that, to changing the Wildlife Revolving Fund to remove that restriction?
Sure, we could look at that in more detail and point to the spot. And Joey, do you have?
I'll point. I'm not sure, Tom. I haven't read it in years, but I'm not sure that isn't already in there. You might want to go into see about changing the law and making it stronger. I know the case that you're asking for, but we do already. We've all the biologists decided several years ago when it was determined that we cannot use federal funds to fund Lanai. We decided that Lanai is the main statewide hunting area that everybody, from all around the state can partake. In fact, even from all around the country for that matter. And the Wildlife Revolving Fund, the top, I may be wrong, don't quote me, but I think the first $45,000 of the Wildlife Revolving Fund goes straight to pay for the Lanai lease, which has nothing to do with Pittman-Robertson funds at all. So that may, I haven't read it, like I said, in years, but that may already be in there.
Yeah, no, you and I can talk about that later.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to,
Just to make sure that there's an understanding. I also share that understanding. That's why I asked the question. So there is a question about that. And it needs to be clarified. Because if you have $750,000 and you're prevented from using that money for mammal programs, what good is it?
I believe it can't be used for enhancement. So if you wanted to put like watering units or things like that, it's going to enhance the game. I don't think the money could be used for that.
Right, but if we back ourselves up on some of the items I was saying, where if we do solid planning that allows us to deal with those issues, then I think we will be able to move ahead with programs that do have those kinds of activities in them. But we have to satisfy certain...
And that's like the HCP, the Habitat
Exactly.
Conservation Plan at Pu'uwa.
And
Is there any way to streamline a plan like that?
We
How do
would
these
love
windmill
to.
projects get to do that in
We
a
would
year or
love
two?
to.
And for game, it's going on 10 years.
The windmill projects, Kauai HCP is extremely complex, but it is definitely something we want to work on. And actually, I've chosen to work at some national level state wildlife program agencies across the country. Have faced similar issues with endangered species and working with Fish and Wildlife Service. So I've chose to prioritize my time to understand the national level policy so we can move forward with better relations with Fish and Wildlife Service on these endangered species issues.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's go to D right now. Okay, this is kind of changing gears here.
Oh, okay.
D is actual locations and total acreage to be fenced and unglets are to be removed from the watershed protection plan, and that would be the rain follows the forest. I think we need to see a little bit of what the actual area is, how is it scattered, what areas is considered, like with Mauna Kea, because that area is being fenced and eradicated, is that part of the total acreage of doubling the watershed initiative? That would be my question.
Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Can you guys just run away? We need something
Check. You don't buy donuts. I bet. Don't worry.
I know you guys hungry, we're just looking at it.
Was on smoked meat or something.
Shit, go back.
Why don't we do, since we don't need that for now, let's go back to C and do a time frame for DLNR chairperson William Isla to return to Hawaii County and speak with resource users. At our last meeting in September, Isla committed to come back and talk to other users, I guess fishermen also, and
He
Palau
was-
and so forth.
He was very hopeful to try and make this meeting, but he just came back from Washington DC. So I mentioned to Tony that if, as early as possible, that we know the date of the next meeting.
March 24th.
Okay, March 24th. When I get back to Honolulu tomorrow, I'll go immediately give that date and see if we can have him show up on that
Yeah,
meeting.
but Lisa, that this doesn't pertain to coming to our meeting. This is pertaining to what he
bigger
promised
meeting.
these people out here said, and you were there, you
Yeah.
heard him say, he would come and spend one Saturday, one all day without time restrictions, no 45-minute deadlines,
No planes to catch.
no planes to catch, and speak with these people and answer some questions that haven't been answered for all these years. So that's, and I know that, what's her name? Not Barbara.
Susan?
Teresa has sent him about 8 or 10 emails and has yet to get a response from him or anybody else.
You don't care.
And I mean, you know, we don't want to call the kettle black, but it's pretty black.
Yeah.
The guy is.
Okay,
Can I?
okay, no.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, well,
No computer yet?
no.
Okay, let's see what else we can do here without that. Okay, maybe we can go to E right now because that's more of an explanation. There's a recent press release that came out that the Rain Follows the Watershed said that the whole idea of that project was to double the size of protected areas. And then one of my questions is, when does that area start? Because if that plan came out in 2011, does that include the land size at that time? If it was 92,000 acres in 2011, you double that, so it would be 184. Or because like every year, if more and more gets fenced, and then you just keep saying you're going to double that, you're going to double that, then I mean, there's nothing left. And when I read this, it says there's 140,000 acres now being managed to conserve Weiss Forest. What does managed mean versus being priority 1 and 2, which was to fence and eradicate? Because I'm getting mixed up with protected, managed.
Yep, and I understand
Thank you.
that that's confusing. And part of these maps will help demonstrate that. So one of the important things to understand, because it says 480,000 acres as well. So the funding from the Rain Follows the Forest comes in a couple of ways. It comes in general funds, and it also comes in capital improvement funds. And it goes to fund activities not just of fencing, but it also funds things like invasive species control, outplanting plants, those kinds of things. So some of the funds have gone to the watershed partnerships. That includes work on other jurisdictions of land and other private landowners. So that the approximate 90,000 acres includes all lands, no matter whose jurisdiction it is within the state. The goal is to double that, and it would be on multiple jurisdictions and multiple landowners' land. So that's where the 480,000 acres comes in as well, because as I mentioned, there's other activities. And my maps show very clearly what the DOFA lands are. Because I think that's one of the most important things to cover for you folks, because we manage the public hunting areas, and I wanted to be sure that, that's communicated very clearly.
Okay, and that has percentages and actual acreage of
Yes.
DOFAR public hunting areas that will be
Yes, can
priority 1.
you want me to, this one?
So just one question while you're getting your thing going there. Does large areas incorporated into all of that acreage?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. All right, sorry for the, let's hope that this, see it disappear, oh, it's over there. Okay, here we go. Okay. So one thing I wanted to do was give an opportunity, because a lot of people often don't get to see our org chart of how we're organized. And so it's important to know that the Board of Land and Natural Resources, you often hear BLNR, they're actually the decision-making bodies appointed by the governor that oversee the entire department. So Rob Pacheco is our Hawaii Island representative. Chairman Isla, William Isla, is the chair of the department. So under the Department of Land and Natural Resources, there's several divisions. It's the Office of Coastal and Conservation Lands, State Historic Preservation, Bureau of Conveyances, State Parks, Division of Aquatic Resources, DoCare, Land Division, Engineering, and Boating, and Ocean Recreation. Just so you know how Division of Forestry and Wildlife is cut up, I put up our main programs over there, particularly retaining to Hawaii Island Branch, which is we're cut into forestry, Na'alahele, wildlife, and the natural area reserve system. So I just wanted everybody to see that, how we're organized. Helps me. So Division of Forestry and Wildlife, we're the largest line division within DLNR. We have 200 civil service employees, and there's 200 other kind of contract employees that we oversee. We are actually the oldest forest management agency in the United States. We were founded in 1903. And amazingly, we're the 11th largest in the U.S. We manage the most state acres in forestry out of in the country, which is we manage nearly 1 million acres in forest reserve, NARS, wildlife sanctuaries, plant sanctuaries, game management areas, and I also wanted to mention the endangered species component there. Because in Hawaii, like it or not, we have nearly 1/3 of all the listed species in the U.S., and when you consider we're only 0.2% of the land area that makes up the United States, that's a pretty substantial statistic. So on Hawaii Island, just for so you folks know, we manage nearly 50% of the state ceded lands, 700,000 acres, 70% of the state forest reserves designated as such, 75% of the natural area reserves, 18 Na'alahele programs, and over 600,000 acres of hunting land. I always like to remind everybody that the Big Island is the center of the universe and the state. And when I was the branch manager here and other island branches used to complain, I said, we manage all of you plus a bunch of space. So just to put it in perspective, so 27.6 of the island of Hawaii is managed by DOFA. So those green areas are DOFA managed lands. As I mentioned, they're designated as forest reserve, natural area reserve, game management area, plant sanctuary. So they're just the lands that have been designated as such. They're state lands, designated and under the jurisdiction of our Division of Forestry and Wildlife. So there's other state lands that are under the jurisdiction of Land Division. There's approximately over 200,000 acres on the island managed by Land Division. So as in our hunting rules, these are the areas that are designated in our hunting rules. So it's actually 25.6% of the land on Hawaii Island. The area is in brown. And we just so you guys could see the difference between bird hunting and mammal hunting. There's slightly more bird hunting than mammal hunting, not much. So these were the questions that you had. This is the areas that have been identified as the watershed priority areas that were in the plan. The areas in blue. Again, those go across multiple landowner jurisdictions. So 22.3% of the island is in that watershed priority area.
So, if you go back to the previous slide,
Yeah.
the majority of all that blue that just came up, it's all
Yeah. Yeah. I have one that actually overlays the two of them. So right there. Oh, so that's the DOFA managed lands that overlap with the watershed, and that's the hunting that overlaps with the watershed.
Okay, I think that's the one.
No, it's not. No. I'm going to show you that next, okay? So I was very, based on that meeting that we had when when Chair Isla was here, I really heard a lot of what you guys were saying, so I wanted to try and make these maps as clear as possible. Understanding which lands were in DOFA, which lands were in public hunting. So when we look now, I'm going to talk purely about fencing on DOFA land. So these red areas are the lands that are actually fenced right now, and 3.5% of DOFA's land is fenced. The next slide I'm going to show you is are the projects that have already kind of been vetted and approved and what those include. So 3.5% of DOFA land is fenced, 19.4% of DOFA land is planned, for a total of 22.9%. But what I want to show you and talk about in particular is Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea, as you are all well aware, is a court-ordered situation. One of the significant things about Mauna Kea, and I'll move to the next slide, which is actually the hunting land that's fenced. So 1.4% of the public hunting is currently fenced, acreage-wise. And I believe that that shows all the red is the currently fenced areas. And then this is what it is moving to, again, including Mauna Kea. One of the things that we know about Mauna Kea is that there's still bird hunting associated with Mauna Kea, and technically there's still pig hunting, though we know it isn't good habitat for pigs, but there are pigs kind of in that lower Ka'ohe section. So that's minus Mauna Kea. But other things that the watershed, so in terms of watershed initiative, I mean, this is what's planned. It's not the entire watershed being fenced. This is going to take probably 10 to 15 years to implement, and funding. Some of the fencing you're seeing, particularly associated with Puvawa, is for endangered species protection. Oh, there's 21 listed plants there, and several birds, and also some there are insects that are listed there. Hey, I'm sorry, you
Stay on
guys.
topic,
I was
stay on
asked to
topic.
present
Yeah.
the statistics. I'm showing these to you because there's been a lot of talk, and I wanted to show you guys very plainly, what we have on the books. So I just thought that was the best way to do it. Because I really think that what was such an alarming map were these ones. And when we don't have those fence lines associated with the watershed, and you hear about the watershed initiative, you think that entire priority watershed is going to be fenced. Something I want to talk about associated with watershed, and I wish I had a pointer.
Lisa, that's going to stop right there. I'd like to just ask one question. See, even that part, if the 3.5% of DOFA land is fenced, okay, currently, is that just fenced, or is that fenced and considered part of this watershed? Or is it just fenced areas around the island?
It's fenced areas around the island because I figured that was a far more important thing to cover, the entire suite.
3.5% to 19%, that's more than a double.
Yeah, but this takes into account some of the dry forest areas like Mauna Kea, parts of that aren't considered the priority watershed.
But I think that's part of the problem, because the watershed plan, specifically said to double the size of the water. And I mean, it's not your doing or anything like that. I just want to let you know that that's why there's a lot of animosity and stuff, because when we start looking at numbers and sizes and
right,
I know because Mauna Kea is kind of probably a big part of that, a big chunk of that, so it's kind of deceptive that way. But
and
it's like if they're taking that should have been part of the whole big percentage of what they needed for watershed protection, because apparently and speaking with Representative Lowen in Kona, she says that their water, I stressed that can you overlap the watershed protection plan, forested area?
With the fencing? And
Just where the actual watershed, the blue, yeah.
Yeah.
You can see by like the Kohala area, Kawaihae area and all that. That's where, there's no plans for any type of forest protection. And she said that their water comes from the mountain. So if that's the case, then all of Mauna Kea should have been part of the watershed, which is 60,000 acres or whatever. So that should have been sufficient enough to almost double the size of protected area alone if they just included that. And what we see from 3.5% to 22% is quite large. So I know it's not your doing, and that's.
Tony, if I may, I felt it was more accurate and more transparent to show everybody the entire gamut versus just the watershed fences. And I think that would be deceptive. And I felt it was important to show all of DOFA's projects on the books.
Okay, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
May I ask one question on this? To dovetail with
Quick, Tom.
I appreciate what you're saying here. And the fencing is a very small part of this watershed plan at present. At that meeting on the 24th, Tony specifically asked Chairman Isla that given the watershed, if you want to get back to that watershed map just for 1 second, that watershed covers the entire area, and all of that is priority 1 and priority 2. The goal of priority 1 and priority 2 was to remove all ungulates, period. And Isla confirmed that. Tony specifically asked them, hey, if you had the money today, would you get rid of them today? And he said yes. So the goal ultimately is to, it seems like, remove ungulates from the island, which doesn't fly with the idea of, hunting for our children.
And I'm talking from a perspective of reality of management on the ground and massive planning processes that have gone on. Kohala Watershed Partnership in cooperation with several of the private landowners as well. So, in terms of the long term, like I said, probably next 10 to 15 years, these are the things that have been planned. So, there is priority watershed that, depending on where that rain belt is important, but there's other activities associated with the watershed that are important, such as invasive species control. That includes things like, if we have some new plant show up, like Myconia, say, starts moving into Kohala where it isn't right now, we would probably be able to use some of the watershed funding to control something like that out there. So,
Can I ask you to tell these guys the priority or the reason that you have to take it out of the watershed? What is the reason for that?
the reason for that is that the animals, in particular the ground layer of vegetation tends to be highly disturbed from pigs certainly will overturn a lot. It also depends on kind of where you are and which kind of forest it is. In particular, pigs don't do as much damage, say, when you have like a really hard, dry kind of pohoi or ah situation, but when you have a lot of goats out there, the goats will girdle the trees, and then you have less and less forest. But one of the biggest impacts and areas of concern, and I think maybe several of you have participated in the cattle hunt going on right now, is the feral cattle situation in the upper Gila forest, Gila watershed. And those cattle, if you look out through that forest, it kind of looks like a golf course. Yeah. And I do believe that there is there's room for, you know, a multitude of uses across DOFA's lands. And the reason, like I said, I really felt that it was important to show you guys the whole suite of the projects, regardless of whether they fell in the watershed priority or not, was that you could understand, you know, where this stuff actually is on the landscape. Because when you aren't looking at these maps, you know, it becomes, if it's difficult to really get a sense of where the activity is happening. So I wanted to show this. And, you know, one of the things that really has come up, and that was Jordan was working on, is that there's a lot of land that's difficult to access that still would be good hunting. So improving access is one of our priorities as well. And we're seeing that as one of the things that we would like to use watershed funding for. Pardon? Access. Well,
Access.
it protects forest as well. And we have planting going on, for example, down in the pastures on the north slope of Mauna Kea. There's a lot of funding going towards reestablishing forest there.
Okay, let's,
Can I ask a question?
I will do it at the end. I took a few more items we can get through, and then we can start getting to you guys' questions, if possible. Move to F now. I think you answered D&E. Any more questions on the 480,000 acres that is across boundaries? It's not just DOFAR land and everything.
Yeah.
So Kamehameha Schools, Hawaiian Homes land, is that
Well,
the
and
types
it's
of
not,
things? Or
and
is
I
that-
want you to know that that's not 480 acres of fenced, ungulate removed activity. That's the whole suite of forest management activities.
Okay.
And so that's why the acreage is high. But the current goal statewide is 90,000 acres is what it is, and the goal is 180.
Okay, that's the
Of
number
priority
I was looking
watershed.
for. That was the number I'm looking for. So 180, and that's in 10 years?
By 2021.
And then after that is just take care of what you guys have? And-
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I guess F, are you ready for question F? Move to that one?
Sure.
Okay, you know, reading that plan, I've often seen all these things with partnerships, and Chair Ayla talks all about the 11 watershed partnerships and all this, and I guess in the hunting community as a whole for quite a long time, we wondered why the resource, I just call them resource users, I hate to use the word users, but why resource users aren't considered a partner in this plan or any other plans. And I know when there's projects, they go out and they do a public review, or they go and get some people to sit on a, I don't know where, like Ka'u. I wasn't aware of any of that projects. Maybe Kalani, did you know anything about when that project came up, and the EA and all that stuff? I mean, did people in your community get together and that you're cool? Yes, yes, the whole plan for that area and stuff.
There was one public meeting that was voiced against, and then ever since that, they just shut it down. And now there's a court case pending. That's how extreme we have to take. Break the fence.
And, you know, Mililani Browning worked on that project, and I know that they took a lot of guys up into the forest as well to kind of show them the sites and
Well, see, there was other alternatives, certain other areas, but the refusal from her bosses said no. She was just a walk-up, just walking everybody through that this is what could happen. But initially they wanted that certain area, despite it all. Despite what Billy was going through and what she was told on a lot of times that people were saying they wanted different areas, they wouldn't see it. Their mind was made up. So it was just one public thing of just the formalities that needed to be done. So yeah, that's why it's a big concern, and that's why I think now it's in a court hearing.
you know, in terms of partnership, we, you know, every section of the island, I mean, we find that there are different folks with different opinions all across the landscape. There are certain guys that are very oriented to one hunting area or another. And so, ideally, we would be working with the communities that hunt in those areas. Some of the areas that we have projects, there's guys that travel from all over the island, in particular Puvava. When that management plan was written in 2003, there were some folks in the hunting community that actually sat and helped develop that management plan. So there are advisory committees. I think we can do a better job, there's no question. There are some folks that sit on this panel that have my personal cell phone number and text me. So you're being heard, and I want you to know that they're moving forward. I want to see you working together, but that also comes with a recognition that there are things that we have other mandates besides hunting, and I'm hopeful for a landscape that we can provide for everybody and all of the resources that we're required to protect. And the last thing I want to see is another lawsuit like happened on Mauna Kea. That's the last thing I want to see. And I think if we can proactively plan together with the recognition that we don't have mediocrity across the landscape, but we have solid game management areas, we have solid protected areas, that we can have a patchwork quilt of areas that can provide for people to meet on the table, but also provide for, the storied plants and species that are found nowhere else in the world but here.
But see, what we're talking about is my district, and in my district, that fence is proposed dead center of the mountain. There is no hunters, where they can go area. It's like you taking that area right now. To actually really look at it on a map and not know the area, fine. But to really go there and see the area, dead center. Dead center of the Kahu Forest. It's not a Kahuku issue, it's not a Nature Conservancy issue, it's Kahu Mountain.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest issues I know for Ka'u that we were facing is access, and getting into other sections of the forest reserve. And one of the creative ideas, we would really like to work with some of the private landowners who have current leases that may have some of those leases coming up, and actually be able to have DOFA lease some of those access points or create easements over them that would allow access. But we got to also understand that wherever we have access points, we also get the phone calls about the complaints of cars parked in places that block driveways and those kinds of things. So I think it would be great to work with, and I know Jordan was trying to work really hard with you folks to understand some of the most important access points.
Well, see, the whole access was an issue, but you taking away that fencing, that area where you guys want is just dead center of the forest. Well, we have access to them. Now we're going to have to play with other private landowners and hopefully get that access through their side to get to the forest. Because basically that portion right there is actually totally accessible right now. And when you fence them, it's not. So you actually taking away from the public hunting. Not the private landowners, because the private landowners is the places we cannot get to. But that area right there, you are. And that's what we've been trying to say for a long time. So, listening, and that's all I'm saying.
Okay.
How long we will go through all this?
Willie Joe had a question.
Thank you, Kalani. Lisa, back to something you had said earlier, about not being afraid. Who besides you is gonna stand up to not being unafraid? Because so far since I've been involved with this as much as I've been, I take your word that you're trying to stand up to some of these pressures from outside, but you're only one person. And the people above you, and I'm sorry, but it starts from the governor down. Nobody I don't know if they're afraid, but they're not going to stand up for us. And, yeah, and we're just laying down to all these special interest groups all these years, and that's where all this frustration is coming from. I mean, it's not just what's happening right now, and this is years in the making. So how are we going to convince the other key people in the department that everybody needs to work together, and we don't have to just lay down and let Fish and Wildlife bully us into doing everything like they're doing right now. You don't have to answer it. That's just my. It's not really a question, I guess. That's just my opinion. Is that, who else is gonna have a backbone and stand up for us too, besides just you? Because, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you get plenty power, but it's not enough. You know what I mean? You need help. Also, how are you gonna convince these other people? Mr. Ayla, whoever gonna take Esther's position, the governor. It's rough.
I hear you. I think there's a lot of great staff on the ground that is willing and able. And I think augmenting the program and going after additional funding, I think there's a solid recognition that there's been, programs that have certainly excelled in the last decade. And I would like to see some of that move throughout the entire division, and hence the reason I made the choice to go into the position that I am in now. It's not easy at all. But, I didn't have to come here. I didn't have to make these maps. I didn't have to. But I thought it was important. We spent a lot of time on Friday. I've made some choices not to go on some trips to work with the Forest Service on some very specific forestry issues, to spend my time, like I said, working on these national level endangered species issues. We aren't going to always like the answers both ways, but I think we're at a point where if we can kind of come to some common understandings and recognition of some of our additional obligations, but know that we certainly, I am hopeful. And that's pretty much all I can tell you right now.
Okay, one more. Okay, Tom, wrap it up.
I appreciate all that you're doing, but one of the things that I see and have seen is that it's not just the money. There has to be a will in DLNR to be dealing with the hunting community. You're dealing with advisory councils, basically at a ground level. It's kind of like on a fractured basis. You have one at Puawa, you have one at, with Billy Joe here. Now you partner with all these other people, and really you should be partnering with the hunters as well in all of these areas in a top-down fashion. You should have somebody who's dedicated to the community, the hunting community, when you start thinking about these projects, so that he can guide you in coming into, instead of coming like a code, coming in and saying, hey, well, this is what we're going to do. It's more of, hey, this is what we want to do, how should we do it?
Thank you.
Hey, Tony, it's Mark.
Hey,
We
Mark.
got time for we got time for one more. We got to move on.
Yeah, you got 1 minute.
We got time? Yeah, 1 minute. Okay. First off, Lisa, I want to say thanks. I think the presentation was excellent, and I think transparency is very welcome, right? Because I don't think we were getting it before. A couple comments. I was with Malama Solomon late last week. She did a presentation on DOFA priorities. If you're a hunter watching this thing, it'll make your stomach crawl, right? I do think that as the new head of DOFA, a lot of people count on the renewable resources we have, and they need to be a priority for DOFA, right? And coming back to priorities. Priorities, words are great. I talked about results, and I think we need some. Frankly, and I'm counting on you, and I'm counting on GMAC to help you get there, right? But, when we were at the legislature on Friday, I made the comment that priorities are really dollars. And as you look at this administration, as you look at the legislature, as you look at the money stacked up on watershed, invasive species, fencing and eradication, the fact that we actually have the opportunity to get $750,000 this year is probably a first. But when you look at the hunters and we look at the budget on which priorities are based, we don't even make the page, right? We just don't make the page. So the words are good. I think the intent is there. Money against these programs are what we need. Money and people who are accountable. And I think we have accountable people now. And together, we got to figure out a way to get some money to put against this stuff. Because that's the way we're going to get some results. And with that, those are comments, not questions, Lisa. If I can help in any way, shape, or form, you got my number.
Thank you, Mark.
And as I mentioned, Mark, I'm hopeful that we actually inserted some language that hopefully allows for another $750K out of the request from House Bill 1902. So we'll see how that moves. If I may, one last thing, may I?
Yes.
I just wanted to point out some position updates. So the state acquisition coordinator, which was Jordan, for those of you that had the pleasure of meeting him, his current position is posted under the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii, and it closes on the 3rd of March. That position was one of the positions when we get funding and we have to have a position actually appointed by, or not appointed, but given to us by the legislature to make a civil service position. So we hire them through the Research Corporation of the University of Hawaii. I'm happy to say that position, we are moving it through the system to get it established as a civil service position as well. So hopefully we can get someone to replace Jordan and eventually can get them in the state system. The Hawaii Island branch manager, my former position, is actually internally and externally posted, and it is closing externally on the 28th and I believe internally on the 24th. And then the wildlife game biologist, for those of you that knew Ed Johnson, he was in the admin office and passed away, I believe, last January. We are interviewing for that position right now. And I'm hopeful, but it may have to go back out to external recruitment. So I'm just letting you guys know we're still trying to fill that position. And it's one of the key positions to help us move this kind of agenda forward. And we're really trying to find someone that fits that position well.
Thank you, Lisa. One final question, Willie Joe?
Lisa, what happened to the DOFA website?
Good question.
And how can I get it? How can I get back on it every now and then? Because it's gone. I mean, I can't find it.
Yeah, we had a great kind of website with a ton of information on it, and we had to transition to a new e-website. That's a statewide initiative, and it's been a rusty transition.
Because I can get onto like Dobor, the boating one, but DOFA is nowhere to be found.
I agree. Good
Okay.
point.
Thanks, Willie Joe.
Oh my
Paul?
goodness.
Hey Lisa, for this one, the statewide acquisition coordinator, is that a permanent position?
Well, this one is RCUH. The way positions get established is they tend to be established temporary first, but then they run temporary for a few years, and then we go back to the legislature to try and turn them into permanent positions.
Well, how long will this position be, I guess, open till it has to go back to legislation?
The civil service, well, several have been running for like 6-7 years as temporary, but you have all the same benefits. But it's just a matter of the legislature finding that as a priority.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna whip through the rest of ours. We just have to make a few motions, and then Lisa, would it be all right if you could maybe answer some questions after, or are you gonna hang out for a little bit?
I can hang out.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay, under unfinished business, I'd like to hear a motion to accept our legislative testimony. We've been quite busy putting in some bills at the legislature this year, and that would be HB 1901, 1902, 1903, 1904, 1905, and 1907.
I move to accept the testimony on all those bills. Do I have to name it?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
And I second.
Ike seconded. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, under new business, there was a request to get an aquatic issue in here, and I saw an article in West Hawaii today about some big changes happening on the west side of the island, so I'd like to hear a motion to submit a formal request to ask Dr. Bill Walsh of the Hawaii Division of Aquatic Resources to attend one of our upcoming meetings to discuss that article and plans for West Hawaii. Do I hear a motion?
I move you invite Mr. Walsh to.
Tom made the motion. Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Willie Joe seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Okay, let's see, future next meeting date, March 24th. Same time, probably across there though, in the smaller room. And then April 21st, same time, probably across there too. Unless we can get Isla over. But okay, let me clarify that Isla visit is a public type thing, so we would have to probably get a place. You know, would that fall back under probably you guys maybe finding a place for Isla to come and talk to people? Yeah, it's probably out of the scope of us right now to get anything. So, if that can be kept in the background.
So, Tony, those dates are down. I mean,
Yeah, they're down for
that's
us.
going to be the next meeting.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay, and then there's a few announcements. We'll do that, and then we'll get to the questions just real quick, so I don't forget anybody. There was one. Glennon was in Kona. Is he still there?
Yes, Glenn's here.
Go for it, Glenn.
Okay, Glennon's with the upcoming shooting range in Kona.
How you doing, Mr.
Hello.
Chairman and members of the advisory committee? Thank you very much. Lisa, I don't know about congratulating you, but it sounds like you're going from the pot to the frying pan. So good luck in your new position. It's great to have a former representative direct from the island of Hawaii in your position. I hope the best for you. And I hope hunters will all become your friends and you'll become their friends. Thank you very much. As chairman of the Friends of the NRA for the island of Hawaii, just a quick update for you. The Hawaii Island Public Shooting Range in Pu'uanahulu, we're still moving ahead on that. For some of you that also understand that Pittman Robertson funds are also used for the support of firearm safety for range development as well. And you can thank all of yourselves or anybody in that room that has purchased a firearm or any type of hunting equipment, because that's where that money comes from. Those are federal taxes that are filtered to the state for those uses. So it's not just limited to other related conservation areas. The range development is going along. We have some additional work that's being done on the sound propagation. There's some concerns that have been raised by the Waikoloa Resort Association. We're addressing those issues. The first sound test that was performed by our engineering group at PBR Hawaii registered no propagation of noise by gunfire. We staged our gun firing at several points around the area where the construction of the range will be. And the instrumentation that was used in that testing had registered nothing. There was more ambient noise around the resort, i.e. automobile traffic on Ka'aumana Highway, traffic within the resort, people yelling, screaming, tires, motorcycles had more registered noise. So the Resort Association has asked the congressional delegation through a letter of complaint that the DLNR take steps to do another committee-based sound propagation test. That committee met last week, and they will be scheduling a second round of sound propagation studies. That seems to be the issue that the Waikoloa Resort Association has raised about this, even though the group working on this, On Target Incorporated, and prior to On Target, there were several other working groups around range development for the past 10 to 12 years. We've been fully transparent with the Waikoloa Resort Association as to the design, the location, and so on. So there has not been anything that has not been above board about the intention of building a public shooting range. For the guests in attendance at the meeting here in Hilo, and I'm sure most of you know, we do not have a public shooting range. We've had, over the past 10 years, in excess of 24,000 firearm sales made or imported into the state of Hawaii, with a 70% growth rate over the last 5 years. If we continue down that path and do not have a safe place for our youth and our people to be shooting, practicing safe shooting skills, I don't know, you can put 2 plus 2 together and you're going to have some problems. You're going to have some accidents, you're going to have discharge of firearms on private land, you're going to have errant discharge and projectiles leaving property. So you can see where we're headed if we do not make a public shooting range a priority. I think, Lisa, you would love the fact that we could eventually move out of our quasi-shooting area that we lovingly call the Manukau shooting area, which is actually a natural reserve area, and close that place down eventually because it's not a safe place to shoot. But unfortunately, it is a place because no one else has anywhere else to go shooting that they know of. So I support the range from the NRA perspective. I've had nothing but tremendous support at all levels of the NRA National to help with this process. We have great people working on the ground on this process. We encourage all of you to become involved, and becoming involved may be a few months down the line when there'll be more public hearings about the use of the land at Pu'uanahulu for the shooting range, and we invite all of you to be there. Senator Solomon has asked that anybody that has a vested interest in the shooting range and the public attend her Waikoloa-based public meeting, which is this Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. at Waikoloa Elementary School. We hope you'll show up because that's her meeting for the area, and of course Pu'uanahulu is part of that Waikoloa district area in that Apua'a. So we hope that you'll be there. A couple other comments, and I'll make it brief, on the NRA and hunting. The NRA operates a whole department on hunting. I've been to many, many states and been around a lot of meetings like this, and hunters have an equal standing at the table, meaning that hunters are looked at as conservationists in most of the states I've worked in. That means that everybody at that table that's a hunter has a voice, and everybody in the conservation areas in the states that I've visited and gone to meetings at give them that level of standing. And I think that's where we need to go with hunting in the state of Hawaii, that equal respect and looking at hunters as conservationists. Through a generous gift, Darren Lasorte, who's a foremost in hunting rights and the process of handling these things, will be our guest this year in November at the Friends of the NRA meeting and dinner that we have. Darren is a dynamic guy. He's a great guy to listen to. He is a hunter, and he will give you a lot of insight about how other states have handled some of the issues that you're going through right now. And through a generous gift, we're going to have Darren out, and he is a hunter. And that begs the last question that I have, and it's a question rather than a statement. And that is, Lisa, I know you've got some position descriptions out there, and after looking at a lot of the folks in other states that have game management areas and who they hire, is there a line item in any of your job descriptions that puts preference on these people being hunters or having a background in hunting? So that is a question. because I think it really makes a difference when you hire people into these positions to at least give that a little extra weight that they have a hunting background. Thanks from the NRA. Hope to see you this year. Hope to see you Wednesday in Waikoloa. And again, for our next generation of hunters, please support us in getting this range built. Thank you and aloha.
All right, thank you, Glennon. And I'd like to let you guys know that NRA did support all our House bills and stuff this year too. So that was really good. Thank you, Glennon.
You're welcome. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, we're going to open up for your guys' questions now, and then I think Joel was going to say something. You want to do yours now, Joel, and then I'll save Pat for last. Is that okay, Pat?
No, they gotta go. Some of these guys gotta go. I mean, I asked them here for a reason, Tony.
Okay.
You let me go first?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, Joel's going to go right now. Then,
Some of these guys gotta go.
Go ahead, Joe. Terry, come up, Terry. Go ahead, Joe. Can you guys hear me? Hi. Terry, come. Anybody going to cheer for her? Cheer. You know, there's so much to go over here, guys. We went over a lot tonight. Lisa, thank you for coming. Thank you very much. We talked about so many things. One thing is access issues. You know, over the years, they brought bulldozers into the properties. They didn't clean the tracks off, so that spread the invasive plants. When they did that, then they blamed the pig, the goat, the sheep, the cattle for spreading all that. So, let's go to something else here. This animal sanctuaries, you know, getting into access, you know, we only have very few places where we have sanctuaries of the animals, where the animals want to lay down, have more pigs. Once we take that away, by getting access, hunters get farther inside. The animal doesn't have a sanctuary where the animal can produce more. Us guys, we catch the outside, yeah. But we still keep killing the inside. We don't have any type of game management that way. Another thing I was looking at was Jordan. Jordan never did come talk to us. You know, we were, maybe Tony didn't, he talked to us guys, he never did come. We requested how many times for him to come see us. We had many calls into Jordan. Jordan would never come and talk to us guys. You know, we want to save money. You know, we have all the lands that's been taken. If you guys was to reaccess those game management units, fence it correctly, you know, instead of taking 10,000 acres, you guys would probably fence 100 acres. We had a game management plan with a carrying capacity of animals. The animals, from there, we wouldn't have to be wasting all the taxpayers' dollars. Let me slow down. Okay. But those areas wouldn't need to be fenced. You know, we correctively fence. Where there is things, any hunter here can tell you, there's things in the forest that's got to be taken care of, got to be fenced. But we cannot keep losing thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. We've lost too much already. You know, we're getting to the point where we're getting to a civil disobedience. What I mean by that, look how much man is inside here. 12 hunters in here. Nobody wants to cause a civil disobedience. Nobody wants to be carrying bolt cutters in there, backpacking, cutting fences. We're asking you guys to come to the table and work with us, help us. You know, you're here today. Mr. Island made a promise. He never did show up. You know, this new thing now, the rainfalls of forest, it's killing us. You know, we cannot lose any more land. We lost everything already. And there's a lot of us, we just, you know, there's areas that are coming up to get fenced. That's where we're at. We're going to have to drive another 50 miles someplace else to try and hunt. It's too hard. We're not losing those lands. And on the cultural part, I wanted Terry to take care of that. And that's talking about the first thing that came up about releasing pigs, Tony. And I think the best would be for Terry to talk about the cultural part on that.
Aloha. Terry Napiahi from Pele Defense Fund. You know, there's something that I wanted to start with, and Joe invited me to speak in regards to our traditional customary practices that is based on law that has already been, there for protection for our cultural rights of subsistence gathering. And there's some things that I think, time and time again, our Hawaiian people keep saying that the lands come with our people. And the disregard for our traditions and customary practices that are already stated in law. We reiterate this over and over again. And I was told that you have to change the process. Well, the process was put into our government to control the lands. And, I've had the opportunity to attend not only hunting issues, but our fishing issues, which is from Malka to Makai. Access is not the only problem that we have, but the fact that the resources available for our people is important. I heard you earlier about having access. I mean, access for what? When you eradicate all the food that sits inside. The decisions that are made by the Board of Land and Natural Resources. And I think that's something that, Lisa, the process protects. And that's a commission that makes decisions for our resources. Decisions on an environmental assessment or an environmental impact statement. I'm not sure if you have read thoroughly Hunters and Fishermen, what that means. Why a surveyor is mandated to do a survey for land that is being developed. In our Hawaiian culture, our resources are part of who we are. It is what that keeps us alive and keeps us from genocide. Because our traditions are passed from hundreds of years, from our grandparents to our children. And the traditions is what keep us alive because it teaches our children how to take care of you and the entire village, from Malka to Makai. Now, I had an opportunity to attend many testimonies in behalf of our Hawaiian people. And how I can sit here and listen to people talk and talk and talk, and a total disregard for something that is already placed in law. I had a chance of standing in front of the Board of Land and Natural Resources. I've had a chance to speak to Bill Ayla and ask him pointedly, direct, are you qualified to make decisions for our people? Who on your Board of Land and Natural Resources is qualified as a traditional customary practitioner to make decisions for the environmental assessment, environmental impact statement? The total disregard and the ignoring the rights that are in hand. If you look at the environmental assessment, how much they talk about the CIA, the cultural impact assessment, the process that is put there, and a total disregard for our voice. I stood there one day because it was a water issue in Ka'u. Not only hunting, but it was in regards to watershed and who controls that in Ka'u. Our natural resources that should be provided for our people. Public. Now, this is what I asked. I'm sitting there with 10 Hawaiians to testify in behalf of our people. Just to have a voice. And I said, and we have a person here. I said, Bill, who is it that's on the Board of Land and Natural Resources that is qualified to speak in my behalf and listen to me? And he says, Sam God. Okay, so that's cool. I sit in front of the Board of Land and Natural Resources in the issue of water in Ka'u. and the distribution of the water for the people in Kau and who gets to use this. Sam Gunn walks out. So I said, excuse me, Chairman Bill Isla, I thought you said that Sam Gunn is here to speak and listen to my behalf. And I says, why did he leave? And he says, because he's with Nature Conservancy. To me, that's a total conflict of interest. If you're working for Nature Conservancy, you're not there to speak in my behalf and listen to me and my concerns. So really, every environmental assessment, every environmental impact statement was done inadequately because you don't have anyone there qualified to speak in my behalf. I'm a traditional practitioner. The pua'a that is being eradicated was told to me that it's feral and it's no longer used. I use the pig continuously today. Traditions in behalf of our spirituality. I still do that today. Practicing what my grandparents taught me to do. So is that person, Sam Gunn, who makes decisions for the people of the ocean, the whole west side, no exemptions for the Hawaiians. No exemptions for the Hawaiians to continue to subsistence gather. Total disregard. What do we have to do? Take everybody to court just to make changes in, for you to listen to what we have to say in our regard? Commissions have a responsibility not to ignore the rights of our Hawaiian people. It is in place. Every decision should be made with the fact that the Hawaiians are exempt, and the Hawaiians and everybody else that hunts for subsistence. You don't have to be Hawaiian. You practice a tradition. Every hunter and fisherman practices a tradition by subsistence gathering. It is in law. Why the disregard? You have a conflict of interest of a commissioner time and time making decisions for our Hawaiian people in disregard. Rod Pacheco, I think he's the one that speaks for us, for Big Island. I've sat there in total disregard. 10 people speaking in behalf of our Hawaiians. And the decisions are made. No listen. The process needs to be changed. You talk about coexisting. How can you coexist when you disregard the voice of our people? And that's what I'm here for. You have to take it to, litigation suit. We went, Kau, the EA, just to have them do an environmental impact statement. They hired a cultural assessment manager or a consultant to do the EA. Total fluff. Nothing that shows the impact of our Hawaiian people. Nothing. I read the entire EA. Nothing that shows how it impacts you. The hunter, access. What is the access for if you don't have anything in there to hunt? What for? You have access to the ocean for what when you cannot fish and use a spear? They banned that. I have a friend that took his son to go spear. They took the son, the other night. They got to go court now. That son is so scared to go to the beach because he's afraid to practice his traditions. What is that? Do we continue to allow this to happen to our people? That is the start of genocide and a start of racial profiling and racism. You're afraid to use the word racism? Why? It's what's happening.
Thank you, Terry.
Ask you one thing. Rob Pacheco, he's on the board of Land and Natural Resources too. I have a problem with him. He runs a huge ecosystem. He runs a tourism. How does he make decisions if he's running a business? Isn't that conflict of interest? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
You guys are bringing up issues that are, very important and much bigger and broader than
But you see
a
where
lot
we're
of
going,
the
right?
things that we're discussing
Right.
this evening. I mean, these are huge.
Yeah, he's another man, we cannot get him to come.
So-
Ralph Pacheco cannot, he won't come.
In terms of conflict of interest, and when you talk about, there's certain board members, when there's decisions associated that tend to be close to, say, if it was a Mauna Kea site visit issue, Rob would recuse himself from certain aspects. And so Sam recused himself from the Ka'u issue because the Nature Conservancy has the land in Ka'u.
He's Nature Conservancy.
Yeah.
Then his decisions already.
Yeah. But, I
But see,
recognize your concerns. All I can do is express them to the folks above me. But it, in terms of impacting change, I can tell you that the leadership in DLNR, with people like Esther at the table, who's going on to work on the federal level for the Department of Insular Affairs eventually, but presently she's going to be moving into a position to work with the Secretary of the Department of Interior on federal recognition issues. So there's, it's a big topic of discussion in terms of traditional customary practice, how we approach it on all of the levels of management. In all of those, that org chart I showed, it impacts all of us, all of the divisions. So.
See, the big thing we have is you have private gain with Rob and you have with TNC. They have the private interests, but they're dealing with the public, us. But they have all this say, they have paid lobbyists, like how they go there and they lobby. They're in the legislator and the senator's ears all the time. How do you expect us guys to fight these guys and do anything with them? We're not getting a fair shake.
It's a pretty solid shake.
We're getting it. We're getting hammered. We've lost everything. Ask all these men in here. Ask Mr. Franco in the back. He'll tell you, he can explain everything to you.
I know.
We lose everything.
I showed you guys those maps because I wanted to show you
being
the
transparent. We appreciate
reality.
that.
So when
But you're catching the brunt of us. These guys here. Look, these faces. Look, these guys. These guys on every part of these islands. This is who we are, and this is only just a small fraction of us. There's people out there. A lot of us. We're just starting to meet. They're all hunters, gatherers, but we're losing it all. And we got to do something here. And
I think it's very important that if Chair Isla can come here and spend the time, and we can have lunch, we can have everything, and there's everybody that's finally talk to get some of these issues out.
You gotta come with answers.
I'm gonna have to move because I know Pat wanted to talk, and I wanted to leave some time for people to ask questions.
Thank you, guys.
Pat, you want to go now, and then. Thank you, Joe.
And Gary.
Hello, everybody. Lisa.
Aloha.
Very good, your presentation. But people of Hawaii, hunters behind me, I've waited for this opportunity. Lisa, I'm going to tell you, there's no fault of yours, no nothing. It's from the top. It starts from the top and it filters down. Maybe I need it, my friend. So I can face that. So I can face you. It's on? Yeah, it's on. Hunters, I asked some of you to come here tonight, this evening, to understand and know that this island is the state of Hawaii and we are the people, we are the state. The land belongs to the people, the state. DNLR thinks it's theirs where they can do anything they want and shut us up. Well, you've been doing it for many years, before your time and many times. 1950 I started on, I don't know where you was, Lisa. Let me tell you, we hunted in the watershed. No, I'm telling you, we hunted in the watershed area with my dad. And let me tell you something, the pigs didn't destroy the watershed. Because pigs are smarter than human beings. They don't walk 10 miles to eat and come back and drink water at the watershed. Pigs can find the water better than we can. Okay? So what I'm getting at, people, the only way, we heard a lot about taking lands and all that. Well, it's about time we, the people of Hawaii, we, the hunters, start putting our tools together. I'm going to ask you guys, you never registered to vote, please register to vote. This is our key. Any politician who don't want to listen to us, the key to getting them is votes. We want people that listen. Not only we can work with the DNLR, but they refuse to work with us. They have nobody sitting on the board when they make decisions. No hunter is there. We've asked them many times. Right, Tony? And nothing has been done. Maybe in the process now they're going to go. Well, the only way we can get these people, we're going to register to vote. We're going to be our people, hunters, that is known. They're going to hear us now. They don't look at us as, oh, we just hunters. They come here every time at a meeting, no matter where you go. It's all, we're doing this, we're doing that. They look down on us. No more, people, no more. We are unique people. We survive. I went to the meeting there, Lisa was there too, this week Friday. One politician, Mr. Kobayashi, I'll mention his name, said there's two most important things, water and food. Well, they're killing all our food. He didn't like it at all. Well, that's what the DNR do. Not you, Lisa. So what it means, it comes from the top. I ask you, I have papers there. Voting registration. The only key we have. We can't fight these people. We can't do nothing. They're going to run all over us. Let's register to vote. Let's get together. Let's form tonight. There's no hunting club in Hawaii. Let's form a club temporarily. I can be, and I would like to be, interim president. Until such time we organize that we can have our own, and you vote. Hunting is about you. You guys go make the decision, not the leaders. It's for you. All I ask is, we form, and that's why I brought the 3 tablets there, for you to sign. I will get in touch with you guys. If you agree, raise your hand. If you want me to lead you right now, I will temporarily until the time we can vote president, vice president, secretary, so we can stand up and let us be heard. Not push, no more pushing her. Well, we push back, we stand up. You guys agree? Otherwise, we're going to lose everything, people. I'm telling you right now. They're going to take land and land, watershed and water all over. We have no place to hunt. What are you going to do with your dogs? They talk about economy. Support local industry, right? Support local. They themselves are killing the local. The gun shops going out. Dog food not going by. Why? We can hunt. Cars. It takes $42,000 for one hunter. $42,000. How many hunters we have? You need 4-wheel drives, right? You guys know what I'm talking about. So people, hunters, I tell you now, I've been there, I've heard it, and I've been with in 1960 with my brother. Some of the old timers, they're not here. But this is the truth. Nothing has happened positive for us yet since 1960. So the only way we can, they run over us, they step over us. No more. We stand up for what we believe in. This is our land. Belongs to the people. We can sit down and compromise and talk story with them. This is not for us and them. But they only want to take. They don't give back. Okay, please till I give back. It's the kind of broke lava. Even the animals don't like living in a broke lava. You all know that. They don't even want to walk in there themselves.
Okay, Pat, can you wrap it up, Pat?
You know?
Thank you.
Okay, so I just want to say, you agree with me? You with me? If not, forget about hunting, guys. Aloha. Okay?
Thank you. Please support
All right.
Pat. Please support Pat, you guys. Thank you.
So Pat, you're running for office? Is that correct?
What's that?
You're
Okay.
running for office?
Oh, I didn't run. I'm putting myself in tree. How's that? That's not I think Island job.
Okay, I'll take questions out there. Anybody have a specific question? Here you go, my friend. Let's keep it nice.
They're taking thousands and thousands of acres. Right road, when they fence that area up. I hunted in there from the 60s. I know what the forest looks like. Now, jump over that fence. Look what's happening. The weeds taking over, killing all the native plants. But they don't tell the people that. They don't tell the public that the weeds taking over and killing the plants. What the hell is going on? How much land they like to take care of? Thousands of acres, and they don't even take care of nothing.
I got a good solution for that. If you guys got videos or pictures, stuff that we can show people and try to compare and see what's going on. You know, I don't understand the area fully, but you know, to have something on that. I don't know, is that an issue? Joey, Steve, guys, you guys know where he's talking about? Or?
How much land did I?
I showed you the maps. So, I mean, that was part of the reason of tonight, was to demonstrate, you know, where the lines were on the map. You got it. I didn't, I mean,
Okay, we have. Just state your name.
My name is Koa Akana. Some of you know me. I just want to take a look at this map right here. What Uncle is talking about, Wright Road, being in that forest. That's this section. Right, Uncle? It's right around there, huh?
Yeah.
This big red section. And what he's talking about, and if that's what it takes to get, you know, video, pictures, you guys want proof. I've been in this forest, and it's just what he says. It's overgrown. It's ugly. Banana puka all over this whole forest. You jump the fence, nothing. Clean. I can walk right through like nothing. You know. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. So, you look, for everybody, I'm sure everybody has a general idea of how our forest is kind of located. You know. You got, basically this is Wright Road, and then you got below that, you got like, yeah, all behind by like the rubbish dump and all that. This is all that middle, that bottom area that Joe was talking about for the place for the pigs, for a place for them to live, for them to breed, for them to funnel. Yeah, right on. It only looks like this, right? You only got this, this is already fenced, and you're going to take this much more. This is what Puuanahulu, if I'm not mistaken?
no.
What
Puuanahulu is way further
what is
north.
this?
So that's
This is on the bottom, this is the Waikoloa, the top road that comes across? Where is this?
Inaccessible. The big green on the left.
Oh, this is all the
No, that area.
down here.
Yeah, that area is all where you're pointing in the center of the map.
Yes.
That's on the Mauna Kea side
This
of
is all
Mauna
archery
Loa.
stuff.
It's all lava.
Archeries. This is
Way down by the
way
Saddle
down.
Road is. The upside is all lava.
okay. So this is all lava. And then our forest, Saddle Road, kind of what comes up through here.
Right.
Okay, so then you got staying back, and you got all these little areas, and like Joe had said earlier, we're all coming in from the outsides, you know. So there isn't that much forest that's actually there to perpetuate for more animals. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like a sanctuary where they can go rest,
Exactly.
park, places like that. Yeah, the
Yeah.
pressure is constantly on from the lower areas. Yeah. So-
Exactly, and this is only gonna cut more into that. And if this is only gonna end up looking like this is the biggest waste of forest I ever walked through. I was disgusted when I walked through this forest. I walked miles. I walked from Wright Road almost all the way to Kulani, to behind by the prison, where all went fence. I walked all the way through there. And I even tried to cut down. I cut down from where Wright Road is, and I tried to cut down into this. Nothing is different. All there is fence and weeds and the trail, the main trail. Oh, beautiful walk. You know, it's got little rubber steps, so it's real easy to walk for people to go and maintain the main trails. But as long as the fence lines and the forest within those fences is going to waste. So you can fence, you can take this. Geez, I was hoping I was going to be able to take my grandkids, you know, someplace in here, but I guess not.
Thank you.
But thank you. Yeah, I don't think this works.
Conceptual plan you guys get, is that available for the public to
It isn't available yet, but what I could probably do is the shorter version. If I could get it to Tony, does that work for you?
That'd be fine,
And
as
it's
long as I get
just
your
kind of-
contact information.
Yeah, demonstrates how the 750K might be spent. But yeah, and we would look to the commission, the GMAC, to probably help with that, most definitely. But remember that it's a statewide as well, so not just this.
One more question.
Yeah.
Is Monocoque closed?
No. Monocoque being closed, the road being closed, or
The
no?
right side, I think.
It's open.
For how long?
The road to the sea and the Monocaw Bay Road are open. There was a concern, I will tell you, recently there was a concern that the Rainbow Gathering was going to have a massive camp down at the beach because they really impacted Camilo. Several hundreds of people went and camped and had a really substantial impact. We actually scared them enough that they didn't go back to Camilo, and then there were rumors that they were going to go down to Road to the Sea. But apparently they didn't show up, as I understand it. And they may have gone somewhere in Puna, is what we heard.
Sure.
Go is like our district. Getting to the Monocaw issue, Monocaw is north, straight up north. Okay? If you guys know what is north, then Monocaw is north. There's no ifs, whats, or buts. So the reason why you guys cannot get in there is because it's a natural area reserve. Okay? When she talking Camilo and stuff, that's way over the other side. And that's our Rainbow Festivals and stuff. That is like totally not even near Monocaw. Those of you that know my district, that is not even coherent to the whole area. That's like Polomalino, Monocaw, NARS. Look it up. When you see NARS, Natural Area Reserve. So that's why you cannot go in that areas. And that's why there was fenced areas and more fences was put in because it was okay. So there was funding for that. There was nothing we could say or do because it was okay. Because NARS took over. So public input didn't matter because it was under NARS already. Okay?
Thank you.
Can I ask one more question?
Oh, let's see if anybody else first. Hang on. Anybody else? Gino? And then anybody else, raise your hand so I can get a tally of, okay, you next.
I just got off my tractor not too long ago. The thing about it is, getting from the standpoint of the Hawaiians, okay, as far as lands being taken away, it's a big land push, and they're trying to do it the most legal way possible in order to get as much land as they possibly can for the Endangered Species Act. You have to consider one thing. Native Hawaiians is starting to liquefy, starting to deplete itself. Eventually there will be no Native Hawaiians. Taking away lands as what they're doing right now is our Native Hawaiian critical habitat. If you consider the Native Hawaiian dying off, then if there's anything that should be on the Endangered Species Act, it would be the Native Hawaiians.
There you go.
Why? Because they're taking away our critical habitat. So they're causing the demise of the Native Hawaiians, which also includes the local population. Look around you. Look around you on this island. You see your family still here? You see the people you've grown up with still here? No. They're moving. Why they're moving? They're being pushed aside because of all these things, all these changes that are coming to pass. So I'll just leave it at that. When I came back from Vietnam, I was recruiting down at the Butler Building during the county fair. And I seen this sign that was up there that says SOS. I said, what is that, SOS? So the guys told me, it says, save our sheep. Why? Or they're going to eradicate all the sheep that's on Mauna Kea. I said, what for? And they was barbecuing sheep. I said, this is delicious meat. We grew up with this stuff. Yeah, but they're trying to take them away because of the Endangered Species Act. I said, what the hell is that? It's about all these species that belongs on these islands and stuff like that that they need to protect, and it's federally mandated that the courts do so, as well as the state comply with that mandate. So I'm thinking, okay, so we started the Hawaii Pig Hunters of Hawaii, back in '94, I think it was, '93. Stephen Lichter, Steve LaRouge, the Madarises, Tom Lodge, whole bunch of guys got together. Even Joey was over there as a consultant. And the neatest thing about it was that we was trying to preserve a heritage and tradition that belonged to us. Not everybody outside, not anybody from other foreign areas, or even the mainland. It belonged to us. It took 100 years of Japanese, Filipinos, Chinese, Portuguese, Haoles, everybody who made up of the sugar industry, 100 years to make us of whom we are today. And they're coming in and changing our policies. They're changing our way of life, our quality of life. They're doing that in the name of the Endangered Species Act, and they're going to do it as legally as they possibly can by taking it away piece by piece. When I went with Steve Rouge, Bill Stormont, who was with NARS that time, and then we went into Pu'umaka'ala, Army Road, Wright Road. They wanted to show us this plants that they wanted to save. I said, go ahead, let's go in, let's go hike. So we went in and they showed us this plant that was right in the front of us. I said, wow, how much fencing do you think you'll need? Maybe 100 by 100 or something to enclose it and stuff like that, keep the pigs out? Oh no, we can't do that. We need about 10,000 acres. I said, what? Yeah, the way we fence is by protecting not the plant, but the ecosystem. You understand the ecosystem? That's Mauna Kea. The reason they have a big circle, because Mauna Kea is the ecosystem.
Okay, Gino, wrap it up. Thank you. Take the steam out of you there. I know.
These guys pull their wool
No,
over your eyes.
we gotta close this place because the ladies gotta go over here. But okay, there's a couple other guys out here. Thank you, Gino.
DNR always make us go through mitigation procedures. You know, we take this much land and we develop like this outside land for the flora and fauna. You know, other government agencies. You know, DNR is taking like a lot of land. Why would I bring back some land? For example, working for DHL, they kind of wanted to. I know, okay, we're talking open that area for 100 months. I thought I talked to these guys already. I work with them. Want to work with other agencies. Just to maybe open up your legs. You know, have you guys done that?
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the areas that the access and acquisition, meaning actually the potential for buying land for hunting. And I know it's on Oahu, so and you guys are more concerned about. But Oahu, you know, I like to go back to this map because, you know, here's Oahu and. Getting any additional hunting acreage on Oahu is a really big deal. And so as part of the, I don't know if you guys have heard, but the Dole lands are up for sale, kind of on the North Shore area, Wahiawa. And so we're trying to get some lands there that would actually add, I believe, in the order of 5,000 acres, I believe, of additional hunting area on Oahu. So acquisition is a great thing. We have been talking to DHHL at this point, as far as I understand their program. They're going to be targeting beneficiaries of DHHL for their hunting program. We would be very interested. They do lease us Kipuka Ainaho, and we would be very interested in partnering with them further. Other landowners, we always are trying to work with them for access and or provide acreage if they're interested. I do know that they're, you know, respecting things like their cattle gates and all of that is really important when we partner with private landowners to ensure that, you know, their private lands and their cattle or whatever it is they have are protected. So.
Okay, thank you. And then there's a gentleman behind there. Two of them.
Mark Spain. I've been to a couple of these meetings, and sometimes I feel like we're just talking to a wall because we say all what we need to say, and the project still goes through. Can you bring up the watershed, the blue one? If you talk about all this land that you guys taking over, you know, we still allow people to build infrastructure. Yeah, we're building these hotels, we're building all these places, and they are being built on watershed area, right? Am I wrong? Houses. I'm not
Priority
talking about hotels, I'm
watersheds.
talking about houses, businesses, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, we still allow that to happen, but yet you're taking away land from what we do. But money can buy property on the watershed area and continue to grow. Yeah. To me, we talk about invasive species, endangered species and stuff. The biggest invasive species is human beings. Yeah. We building into the forest, we're doing all that. And the hunters is taking the brunt of what's happening. Yeah, we get all these people, human beings, are the biggest invasive species. What I'm trying to say is, it's kind of harsh. Yeah, you talk about transporting animals, wildlife. We transport people to this island, to Hawaii. They end up living here. They add to the number of people on the island. It's the same thing you're doing with animals. When you transport them to another place, you talk about spreading diseases. You're doing this and that. The same thing we're doing with human beings.
Exactly.
You're transporting them from the mainland. They come over here, live over here. You transport them from other places. They're bringing the same thing to our island. They're spreading the same thing throughout the United States. And, you know, that's why I feel like we're talking to a wall, because you guys talking out of two sides of your mouth. You're saying you guys like protect one area, but yet it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense what you guys trying to say. Like I said, I'm saying all of this. You guys made up your minds. You guys taking all these land. You guys fencing them. So it's kind of like talking to the wall. But I just wanted to bring that issue up because that's how I feel. You know, we're the biggest invasive species out here, and what you gonna do? What you gonna start doing? You gonna start eradicating people? Plain and simple. One more thing. A pig is a feral animal, right? A feral pig, right? So we call it, right? A feral pig. What about cats?
They're feral.
Feral, right? But you allow people to take cats into these cat communities all over this island. You guys spay and neuter them or whatever, Humane Society, and they allow them to live in these communities, and people feed them.
Actually, we have a very hard time with that.
So, I mean, but you guys gonna push over the hunters. You guys gonna do all kinds of hunters. But yeah, these people with money is allowed to do that. We no more money. Us guys live off the land. We hunt because that's part of our subsistence, right? That's what we do. We feed our families with that. That's our goal. Okay? But
Thank you. I'll get Gil. We're gonna run out of time there, guys. It's just that they gotta lock up the room. Gil?
My name is Gil Silva. I'm not a hunter, but I believe in the hunter's culture because that was my forefathers in being of the species that is being eliminated with this oil. What I see is that government, again, trying to get involved with the dealings of what we used to do before. And that was to be able to go out, and they say access to the beaches. Well, you cannot spear now, because if you spear, you're doing something wrong, or you cannot go hunting. The idea of fencing is not to keep the hunters out, it's to keep the animals away from being able to survive. So if you're hunters, before you put away your gun, put away everything else, because the fencing is not to keep you guys out, it's to keep the animals from surviving. And as soon as you guys can understand that, and what Pat said is, the vote is what's going to count. Listening and having all this information, tell me what thing that you folks put out that ever got passed to our legislators as far as you folks have organized. How many issues? Nothing. If you don't have the color, you don't have the vote. If you cannot vote, you mean nothing. Until you folks, like Pat said, myself included, stand up for what is right. And I really appreciate Lisa for bringing this information. You know, the sad thing is she's the messenger. So my phrase is, don't get mad at the messenger. If you're mad, you got to stand up for what is right. And I applaud and thank you very much for being the illustrator of what you have.
Thank you, Gil. Thank you.
So, I wanted to just call attention to a few things. Actually, I was going to talk about the testimony for some of the bills, but it's kind of seems like a broader discussion. And just, in Chair Isla's testimony, he said there's about 11,500 hunting licenses in the state. So legally, there's 0.8% of the population of Hawaii hunting in public hunting areas. That's assuming they're all residential. We know there's a lot of tourist hunting licenses issued, right? So there's such small numbers. It's less than 1% of the population are buying that hunting license and saying that they're hunting. As far as the data that's collected on hunting needs, they're estimating 400 pigs are actually reported hunting a year. Yeah, 400 pigs down on paper. That's what's collected from Hawaii County every year. We know you're hunting more than that, right? The county estimates it's got to be 5,000 or 10,000 at least, 10,000 pigs. But even if you assume, okay, maybe it's 10,000 pigs, not the 400 that are actually being reported, they're saying 1 in 10 of those is being hunted off of private property. So that's ranchers, that's people with hunting on their friends' land, hunting on their private parcels. That comes out to the equivalent of 9,000 head of cattle. That's the equivalent of, say, 20,000 acres of ranch land. So when you have 0.8% of the population saying that they're collecting the food equivalency of 20,000 acres of ranch land, but they say that 700,000 acres of public hunting area is not enough, and then you wonder why nobody's listening to you. So the question is there more of you? Where are you? Get yourselves on paper if there's more of you. Are you hunting more than 400 pigs a year? Well, it's got to be recorded then, because the folks at DLNR have to look at numbers. That's their job. They have to find some data, report it, and say, this is how I'm making my decision. This is why we need this much money, because it's going to impact 11,500 people. The legislature says, we don't care. Even if every one of you votes, that's less than 1%. So,
Thank you. That's a good
that's all I
point.
had to
Yeah.
say.
Thank you. One last question, because they got to lock up at 9. Thank you. Can you talk louder, because it goes on record? Yeah, that way we have a record. Yeah, thank you.
Say your name too, please.
My name is Dustin Wamar, and born and raised on Hilo, hunting all my life. But my question is, Section 13-124-3 on to prohibit the transport and release of introduced wildlife. this cannot be refined or worked at in a different way to where the transport and release of introduced wildlife, our pigs, our sheep, our goats, is only prohibited on the land that you guys are fencing and controlling. The ones that you guys are trying so hard to eradicate and remove them from. Because when you look at, you can pull up your map, the one with the 19% of the NCAs. For example, when you use the Ka'u Forest Reserve, for example.
Ka'u here.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're gonna see that middle section, right? And that's the only place you have access to. So you're gonna open up, even if you do end up opening up access to that left wing and that right wing. Say you open up 3 points on the left side, 3 more points on the right side. Okay, eventually, where are the pigs gonna go? You have to the northwest over there, you have all lava. Okay, on the bottom of that is all ranch, private land, fenced off. So where are they gonna go? Right? Eventually the hunter's gonna wipe them off themselves. Right? Okay, so why is it gonna be illegal for me and I have the chance to get arrested to go and put back what I'm taking out just to make sure that it's there for my kids or my grandkids to do the same?
Well, what I would say is that currently, the current draft is looking at taking into consideration the comments and talking about it's okay to transport wild
but
animals.
Not, but transport it to your home, to
or
where-
your ranch or your
Right, but
land.
not,
but
everybody in here, I don't know who owns their own private ranch they can hunt on. You know what I mean?
well, I will say this in perspective. We ourselves, and I'm going to probably raise more discussion, tried to move some animals, and it was a concern because we hadn't considered some of the issues and impacts, and it was us moving some of the Mauna Kea sheep into the military lands. Several of you are familiar with that situation. So you can see that if you have a lot of people moving things, there may be concern that it would be best handled by the agency that's supposed to be dealing with those. I recognize, your concerns if you're going to throw an animal out of the ranch land into the neighboring forest reserve or something, but these are just the kinds of realities we face. But I hear you, and perhaps there's some language that could go in there that, they not be released onto state land. We do have concerns, too, in terms of release where if you were, say, to push animals, and this comes up on Maui, if you have deer impacting, say, a certain portion of your ranch land or something, and you want to push those deer somewhere, and you give them over to your neighbor, you release them on your neighbor's property and they didn't want them, there could be concerns there.
But our hunting land that falls under state land. So when there's nothing left, we cannot put back nothing. That's basically what it is. We cannot put nothing on state land, whether it's fenced for endangered species or not.
Right. I'm hopeful that I communicated to you guys once. I don't ever foresee a time when there won't be any game on this island or across the state. I don't believe I ever said that tonight. I showed you the areas that we are going to protect to the highest level, and I talked about a patchwork quilt of areas where we want to do game enhancement and up the ante on the wildlife game program. Did I not say that tonight? I didn't say that? I thought I did.
We've never had game enhancement in the 60s. Going back to the deer was given to the Hawaiians for food by the Emperor of China. What right do anybody have to remove that animal and say the invasive species? What gave you folks that right?
We are
just like the people.
Indeed, but I want you guys to know that I believe there's going to be hunting on the landscape, and And that's the thing, is that I'm showing the maps to you now.
Okay, we're gonna have to close this because we're not paid, but the helpers here are getting paid. So thank you guys for coming.
Hey guys, don't forget.
No objection.
Sounds good.
Okay, I need to know.
See you, Mark.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
These rabbits already. All the rabbits.
The only way to defeat the money power is people power.
Yeah.
I got a booker. You sign.
Okay.